Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and here we like to explore the world of fountain pens, ink, and paper. And today, you can tell it's an ink day. And what is in this intriguing bottle? Well, it is Diamine's Arctic Blast. This ink was originally released with the Inkvent calendar in 2022, so it's been around a while, but I just got a bottle at the end of last year when I ordered my Benu Haute in that beautiful blue Grace resin. I saw this ink and this pen, and I thought that is a serious match. And so that's why I ended up with this bottle of Arctic Blast. And I have thoroughly enjoyed both the pen and the ink. But when I reviewed that pen, I said I was going to test this ink as well. And you know what I did? I got everything ready. I got all of the writing samples ready. I got the water test all set up and ready to go. I have the chromatography, all of the stuff that we're going to look at today, but I never filmed it. I don't know why. I think I forgot. I think in my head, I checked that off my list. And today I thought about that and I thought, did I not do that? So I went to my own channel. I put Arctic Blast in the search bar and yeah, there was no Arctic Blast. There wasn't even a cool breeze. There was nothing. So today I'm going to make that right, and we're going to look at Arctic Blast, and we will do the chromatography, and we will do the water test, and I will show you how it performs on several different kinds of paper. Hopefully one of those will relate to what you typically use so that you can see how this ink would perform for you. I'll also talk about how it has performed long-term with multiple fills in the Benu Haute with a broad nib. I think this will be a fun ink test. There's a lot going on here. So let's get started. And normally I leave the bottle design till later, but let's go ahead and talk about this because in this series of inks, the bottle has a lot of personality, just a really unique shape, very cool, nice and stable, I will say, on a table. It is a 50 milliliter bottle, so it holds a lot of ink, has a nice wide opening, and it's as functional as it is, well, unusual. Now, the ink itself is a really vibrant blue, as you can see on the label, where they try to mimic at least the base color of the ink. And you will notice that it is a chameleon and sheen ink, and that means we're going to get some alternating colors as the ink dries, and it's going to look really cool. It is also a shimmering ink, and that means you get a little bit of the glittery look to the ink. And while I'm not too much on glitter in a lot of things, I do think that the shimmering material in this ink looks really cool, and it does the name justice, as we will see in our writing samples, and especially if you like Tomoe River, that sample looks really cool, and we will get to that later here in the review. All right, so our first paper will be the Clairefontaine, and I use this one all the time for these ink tests. In fact, this spiral is exclusively for these ink tests. It performs well, the paper does, and gives us a good base understanding of how the ink is going to work on similar papers. So Clairefontaine, it's a coated paper made in France, and a lot of people really like this. You'll see it in various ink review channels as well in their pen tests and pen reviews and things like that. On this paper, you can see that it behaves just fine. There's no feathering. It looks really good. Now, this is, again, a broad nib, so you're seeing a pretty thick line, but it just looks great. And getting a little bit closer, you can see how the shimmer in that ink shows up. You can see that sparkle in there, and it's a silver material, gives it kind of a frosty look as you would expect. You also see that there is some shading. If you look closely at those words, you see that there is that vibrant lighter blue and then into darker shades. You can see again really well right there the shimmer in that ink, and if the camera's picking it up, I don't know, but in person, you also get a bit of red sheen. That'll be more pronounced as we go through some of these other papers. But again, it looks really good. It writes smoothly through this pen. And one thing that I'm really pleased with, no clogs whatsoever. Now, that can be because of the ink and it can be because of the pen. It really takes a combination of characteristics from both. But this particular pen with the broad nib and this ink, very happy together. Zero issues, no dry out. It has been very reliable. Even when I've left the pen for a week, it has just written without any skipping or hard starts or anything. Just has performed flawlessly. If I show you one more spot on this piece of paper, the water test, you can really see some of the shimmer and the sheen effect of the ink. Just looks fantastic. Next up is a Yush paper from India, and here it performed very well. This is an off-white paper, really, really nice for fountain pens, and you can see that the sheen is very easy to see here. So is the shimmer of the ink. Looks really, really good. And as usual, there's no issue on the back of this paper. Now, that is an aspect of the paper and the ink. This ink will go through some papers with some ghosting. I don't recall if there was bleed through, but we'll check that as we go through the papers. But on this Ayush paper, perfect performance. Very popular paper pretty much around the world is the Rhodia dot grid. And here again, you see great shimmer, you see sheen, you see a bit of shading variation. It performs well on this paper. In that smear, you can really see the vibrance of that base blue. No feathering, no issues there, and only a little bit, but there is some, just a little bit of some ghosting. No bleed through on the other paper, but there is a little bit of ghosting on the Rhodia paper. Now, next is copy paper. This is HP Multipurpose copy paper. One that I found is actually for inexpensive copier paper or inkjet printer paper. Really pretty good for fountain pens. Not bad at all. Now, with this ink, what you see is, again, really good display of the shimmering material. You don't really see the sheen on this paper, but it performs pretty well. There is almost some light feathering. You can kind of see it in the downstroke of the A. It's not real bad, not egregious at all, especially for this kind of paper, but it's not a perfect performance. It's just really good. On the other side, you do get some ghosting. Still no bleed through, but you do get definitely some ghosting. But I mean, that's really kind of to be expected. It's more of an impressive thing that there's so little from all of these other inks. Then we get to Irriful. This is quickly becoming a favorite paper of mine. It's affordable, it has really great performance, and that is certainly true here with the Arctic Blast. Look at the sheen on this paper, that red-purple sheen that you get as I move it around in the light is impressive. So you get the shimmer from the ink, you get that sheen, you get no feathering. I mean, it has nice, crisp, smooth lines on this paper. I really like the way that it has performed here, and it just looks fantastic. You get more of the shading difference. Just look at the word diamine as you go across, where that A and the I and the E seems to shade better in the vowels. I wonder what that is. Anyway, looks really good. You see it here on this A as well. So performs very well on Irriful paper. You even see shading here in the wetness test. You see some really good sheen and shimmer combined there in this, whatever you want to call that. I don't know what I call that. And then on the other side, no issues whatsoever. So no bleed through on the Irriful, not even ghosting. Just, I would consider that terrific performance on Irriful. Then we come to the Penning Gear dot grid spiral from Walmart. And this is a paper made in India. Really good. Fans of the channel know that I love this. And it performed well here. You got lots of the material showing up well here. You have sheen all throughout the words Diamine and Arctic and Blast. You just see it there very well. Look at the little ink square there. You have all three things: shimmer, sheen, a bit of shading, color variation, all of it. It's all going on this paper. No feathering, and let's see here. I know what I think it did, but yes, my memory was right. 0 issues. Again, really wonderful paper for a spiral that is 8.5 by 11 inches and comes in under $2.50. Fantastic performance. Then we go to another big box spiral, and this one comes from, this is Just Basics. I think I got this at either, what is that? Just Basics is Office Depot. I had to look at the label, Office Depot. And you see here, this paper made in Vietnam is doing quite well. You have, again, all three things. You have the shading, the color variation, great shimmer right there in the little ink sample, and then all through the word Diamine Arctic Blast. All it just looks really good. No feathering here either. I think that looks terrific. And again, very inexpensive spiral. Even more impressive, and this is as much about the spiral as anything. No issues on the other side. And I really did think that it might, because sometimes some of these Vietnamese spirals will have a little bit of ghosting, but not with this ink. It didn't happen. And then we get to one of the big ones, right? This is Tomoe River paper, and it looks fantastic. This is old school Tomoe. This is an ink notebook that I keep with swatches and everything, and check that out. All the characteristics are there. They showed up in spades, and it looks, again, just really good. Lots of personality to this ink, and the sheen of that swatch. Look at that. Good way to see just what this ink can do. And of course, you see all that shimmering material going on there as well. So across the board, just a great performing ink. It does like some papers a little bit better than others, but it gives you some cool performance on all of them. Now, you do have to mix up this ink. It settles very quickly. The material here at the bottom of the bottle, that's where you get that shimmer, and I find that it settles quickly, very quickly. You know, even while I've been talking to you about these other characteristics, it's gone down to the bottom, and then it does like to get stuck in those corners there, so you'll have to really mix it up a bit to make sure you get plenty of that shimmering material into your ink fill. All right, do a quick swatch here. Look at all that blue. Now, you know I like blue, so this had to be an ink that I was going to like. And the interesting part will be to see whether or not any of that shimmering material gets past the swab here today. That might not have been the best way to do that for shimmering, but that's okay. It'll do all right. Do our second pass and a third pass. There's a wet sample there. Now, while we let that dry and see how that ink performs, let's go ahead and do our regular dry times. We'll do 5, 15, 30, and 60. This is a broad nib, not overly dry. 5 seconds. I expected that to be very wet and was not disappointed. 15 seconds. And that's still pretty wet. Let's do 30. And that's still a little wet. Let's give this a full minute and see how it does. All right, after a minute, it's dry. Okay, good, good. To be honest, after that 30-second one, I was kind of curious. So, yeah, after a minute, you are good to go. And that ink sample, of course, very wet. It's still drying, but you can start to see the shimmer. We ought to see some sheen and variation of color there here in just a little bit. But while we're waiting on that, let's go to the water fastness test. We'll put some water on here, and we'll see after a couple of minutes whether or not we can still read the words water test and how much of that grid wipes away when I blot the water off, okay? And that'll give us an idea of whether or not notes or letters or whatever we've written will still be legible should we have some kind of a spilled coffee or an accident or get caught out in the rain while waiting at the bus stop. All right, let's see how that performed. I'm going to just dab this, try not to smear it around any. Don't want to affect the test that way. And I wasn't sure what to expect. Lots of ink came off, I'll tell you that. And let's see here. I can read the words water test. The grid is still there. There's just less of it than there used to be. One thing about it, there's so much of that saturated blue here that as that has spread around, it's almost more like that's made it murky just as much as it is that the ink has been lifted from the paper. There's kind of a combination of effects. Some inks come up so cleanly from the paper that the grid is actually gone and you can see where things used to be, but you don't know what they said. This you could kind of make it out. Certainly this is not a secure ink, and that's not purported to be. But you might be able to salvage your notes or a letter or something like that if it gets wet. But I wouldn't count on it. But you might be able to. And that's better than a total loss. All right, you've seen it down there, and let's run down to it. The cost of this ink in November of 2025, when I bought it, was $24. I think it's still the same today. It hasn't been all that long. And for a big bottle, and pretty nice bottle, of a shimmering ink with sheen and all of these great characteristics, that's pretty reasonable, I think. It is on the higher end, certainly for Diamine inks, that's at the high end. But when you look at the competition, it's a pretty competitive price for inks with these characteristics. Of course, how you feel about that and what you think about that, that's going to be entirely up to you. Worth and value being fairly subjective on things like this. It is, again, a 50 milliliter bottle. It is made in the UK, and it is a fun ink. Let's go back here and look at this one more time. So it's still not completely dry, but you're starting to see that reddish, purplish sheen in the outlines of the third pass. You can see plenty of shimmering material in the second and third pass. It's a little thin on the first, but it is definitely there. And in normal writing, it is definitely there. And you get all of those things. You get the sheen, the shimmer, and all of that, as I've shown on the various papers. So the ink lives up to its promises. It does all the things that it says that it is going to do, and that's going to factor into whether or not you think that price is worth it as well. Does it deliver? Yes, I think it does, and it's a fun ink. It's a little bit more interest than just a plain blue ink for sure. And as I said earlier, a perfect pairing for this particular pen. All right, so how did the chromatography go? Well, it's not as dynamic as I expected it to be, although Tammy Faye would probably still wear it for eyeshadow if you're old enough to know who that was. Anyway, because what you have that silver and a little bit of bluish shimmering material, and then you get, of course, that base blue ink, which goes light and then vibrant and then very dark as it goes up the page. The sheen doesn't really come out in the chromatography. Maybe you would expect that it would, but it really doesn't. You just see those base blues and the shimmering material. While it may not be the most dynamic of chromatographies, I think it does do a really cool representation of its name, Arctic Blast. I mean, that really does look like an Arctic mountain range with a snowy plain below. That's really pretty cool for a chromatography. Kind of makes it more interesting than it might first appear. So there you go. That is my test of Arctic Blue. I find it to be a fun ink. Of course, blue's my favorite color, but this is way more interesting than just plain old blue. What do you think? Is this an ink that you might be interested in? If you have it, what do you use it for? What pens have you found it performs really well in? Some of you may not have a Benu Haute, and you're never going to, but what pens have you used this ink in that you would recommend to another user, especially somebody who is completely new to shimmering inks? Share that in the comments below. And hey, while you're looking down below, there's a little thing there that says join. Why don't you join the channel? You get some extra benefits. There's some unboxings. And let me tell you, today, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to do a couple of unboxings that I'll be releasing. One today, another one tomorrow. And if you're members of the channel, you get to see those unboxings. You also get to see all the same videos that everybody else sees, but you get to see them the evening before. So a little bit of an incentive there. You get to see things a little bit faster. You also get to vote on which of the pens from my collection I'm going to bring back out and do a follow-up 3, 4, 5 year long verdict on the pens. So I'm going to give a list of pens, and members can choose from that list. Hey, here's the one I would like to see you do a long-term re-review on. You guys have given me a lot of good feedback on that. I think that's something that is interesting to me, even though it's my own collection. It's interesting to me to go back and kind of look at a pen that I've reviewed before through the lens of years of experience. And those show up to everybody on the channel, but members get to choose which pen is next. So check that out. There are a couple of different levels there with different perks, and I appreciate very much those of you who are members now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with somebody you think might like this ink. And before you take off and click away, I got one more thing. I want God to bless you with a really great week. That's not just a way to close a video. I want that to happen. So God bless you. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the comments and in the next review.